Andrew Cuomo once stood like a monument in American politics. He was the iron-fisted, camera-ready, three-term governor of New York who gripped the national spotlight during the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic. At the height of his power, cable news networks praised his leadership, best-selling books were penned in his name, and whispers of a White House run grew louder. But behind the camera lights, inside the ornate halls of the executive mansion in Albany, a different reality festered, one of manipulation, retaliation, abuse, and alleged criminal behavior that would eventually bring the Cuomo empire crashing down. The story of Andrew Cuomo's fall isn't just a scandal. It's a case study in how unchecked power operates when no one dares to question it. It's about how a man celebrated as a savior during crisis used that same crisis to write himself a $5 million 0-cents memoir while allegedly covering up the true number of nursing home deaths in the state. It's about how the same man who was praised for empathy and strength was, according to an explosive Attorney General's report, systematically preying on the women who worked around him. It begins long before the headlines. Andrew Cuomo's rise was paved by legacy. His father, Mario Cuomo, was governor of New York for over a decade and a national Democratic figure. But Andrew did not ride coattails. He built his own fortress. As Attorney General and then governor, Cuomo cultivated an inner circle so loyal and so feared that dissent within his ranks was nearly impossible. He ruled not just with executive orders but with an aura of invincibility, often bullying lawmakers and journalists who dared to cross him. For years that strategy worked. Cuomo's approval ratings were solid, he was re-elected comfortably, and during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, his daily briefings became essential viewing. Americans, starved for clarity, clung to his calm voice, his charts, his rhetoric. He became a national icon. But that icon was cracked from the inside. In the spring of 2021, the cracks began to shatter. Cuomo's Department of Health had issued a controversial directive early in the pandemic, mandating that nursing homes admit patients recovering from COVID-19. The move, critics argued, directly led to thousands of avoidable deaths among New York's most vulnerable. But what made it worse was the cover-up. Investigators and journalists discovered that the Cuomo administration had undercounted the actual number of nursing home deaths by thousands, an omission that appeared to be deliberate. Internal emails later showed that senior aides rewrote public health reports to downplay the fatal numbers, just as Cuomo was negotiating his lucrative book deal on pandemic leadership. And that wasn't just bad optics. It was potential criminal misconduct. Both federal and state prosecutors began investigating the administration for falsifying data and obstructing public information. Whistleblowers within the Department of Health described an environment where fear and intimidation ruled. Data was manipulated, questions were silenced, all while Cuomo was publicly basking in praise and receiving accolades for leading the nation. But while the nursing home revelations damaged Cuomo's credibility, it was the flood of sexual harassment allegations that detonated his political career. In February 2021, former aide Lindsey Boylan published a detailed account accusing Cuomo of years of inappropriate behavior, including unwanted kissing and suggestive comments. Then, more women came forward, 11 in total. Their stories shared patterns that became impossible to ignore. Cuomo sliding his hands down the back of a junior staffer. Cuomo asking invasive, personal questions about sex lives, relationships, and clothing. Most of these women were decades younger. Many feared for their careers, and several claimed that retaliation followed when they tried to speak out. Attorney General Letitia James opened a formal investigation into the misconduct. In August 2021, the findings were released in a searing 165-page report. It concluded that Cuomo had sexually harassed multiple women, created a toxic and retaliatory work culture, and violated both federal and state law. It detailed not only the harassment itself, but the machinery that protected him: senior staffers who coordinated attacks against accusers, leaked personnel files, and manipulated press narratives to shield the governor. He denied the allegations, saying he never touched anyone inappropriately and suggested that his actions were being misinterpreted. But the facts were unrelenting. The report was backed by nearly 200 witness interviews and thousands of documents, emails, texts, and photos. His own party, including President Joe Biden and Speaker Nancy Pelosi, called on him to resign. Investigations revealed that government staffers, some of them junior employees, were pressured to work on Cuomo's book during office hours. That was a clear violation of state ethics law, and it resulted in Cuomo being ordered to return $5 million in profits. His spokesperson called the order political. The ethics board called it theft of public time and resources. By the time Cuomo officially stepped down on August 10, 2021, the empire he had built for decades had disintegrated. But Cuomo didn't disappear. He waited. Behind closed doors, he plotted a return, testing public opinion, launching ads, attempting to frame himself as the victim of cancel culture. He remained a regular on conservative talk shows, hinting at redemption. Then, in 2025, he ran for mayor of New York City, believing the public had forgotten, forgiven, or moved on. They hadn't. Cuomo's campaign was met with tepid enthusiasm. His opponents attacked his record, but more importantly, voters remembered. The victims remembered. The numbers didn't lie. When ballots were cast, Cuomo was defeated handily by Zohran Mamdani, a 33-year-old Democratic socialist whose campaign focused on transparency, workers' rights, and the end of political impunity. Andrew Cuomo has not been convicted of any felony, but his legacy reads like a crime file: obstruction of data, sexual harassment, misuse of state funds, weaponized intimidation. While legal thresholds for criminal guilt remain unproven in court, the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. His name, once spoken with reverence, is now synonymous with scandal, cover-up, and abuse of power. This wasn't just a fall from grace. It was the implosion of a machine built on fear, image, and control. And when it crumbled, it took with it the illusion that power alone could protect a man from consequence. For more raw, fact-based breakdowns of real crimes in politics, subscribe now. Because some crimes don't end in handcuffs. Some end in silence, in shame, and in a fall so loud the whole world hears it.